Welcome back to Paranightmares, where the night whispers and we listen. If creepy tales and unsettling shadows are your kind of lullaby, you're in the right place. Before we descend into tonight's darkness, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me where you're from and what time you're watching. After you finish the video, let us know which part made your skin crawl most. I'm watching, and I read everyone. The old farmhouse in rural Iowa stood alone on a windswept hill, its weathered clapboard siding peeling under years of harsh winters, surrounded by cornfields that stretched into the horizon like a golden sea. Ellie, a 16-year-old with a passion for photography, had convinced her parents to let her host a sleepover for her friends Tyler, Hannah, and Nate, a chance to escape the monotony of sophomore year in their small town of Cedar Falls. The farmhouse, her family's home since her great-grandparents' days, was a maze of creaking floors, narrow hallways, and odd nooks, its walls lined with faded floral wallpaper that curled at the edges. Ellie's camera, a battered Nikon she'd saved for months to buy, sat on the kitchen table, its lens smudged from snapping shots of the fields at dusk. Tyler, the group's resident musician, had brought his guitar, strumming soft chords to fill the silence, while Hannah, track star with a sharp wit, sprawled on a sleeping bag, scrolling through her phone for ghost stories. Nate, the quiet one, always sketching in his notebook, had packed a flashlight and a pocket knife, his cautious nature a holdover from years of camping with his dad. They'd set up in the living room, a cavernous space with a stone fireplace, its mantel cluttered with old family photos and a dusty clock that hadn't ticked in years. The air smelled of wood smoke and must, the house's history palpable in its groans and sighs as the wind rattled the windows. It was a Friday night in late October, cornfields rustling outside, their stalks swaying under a moonless sky. The group had spent the evening eating pizza, playing cards, and laughing over Hannah's exaggerated tales of haunted barns and cursed fields, the kind of stories that floated around their town like folklore. Ellie's parents were at a wedding in Des Moines, leaving the house to the teens, who relished the freedom but felt the weight of the empty rooms around them. They heard rumors about sleepovers gone wrong, strange noises mistaken for pranks, shadowy figures lurking outside. But in the warmth of the firelight, those stories felt distant, like campfire tales meant to thrill, not warn. By 11 p.m., the fire crackled low, casting flickering shadows across the walls, the house settling into a quiet that seemed to hum with its own rhythm. Tyler strummed the final chord, his guitar leaning against the couch, while Hannah read aloud a Reddit post about a sleepover where kids heard whispers from inside the walls, only to find something far worse than mice. Creepy, Nate muttered, his pencil pausing over a sketch of the fireplace, his eyes darting to the dark corners of the room. A soft thud echoed from the hallway, sharp and deliberate, like a book falling from a shelf. The group froze, their laughter dying, the air suddenly thick with tension. "It's just the house," Ellie said, her voice unsteady, though she knew the farmhouse's noises, creaks from the wind, groans from old pipes. But this felt different, heavier, like a step taken with purpose. She'd read about sleepovers where sounds turned sinister, like a true story of teens hearing footsteps in an empty house, later finding signs of an intruder. Hannah's phone glowed as she typed a text to her older sister, Claire. Heard a noise in the hallway. Old house, probably nothing. Tyler grabbed his flashlight, its beam cutting through the dim room, illuminating the hallway's entrance, where the wallpaper seemed to ripple in the shadows. Another thud came, closer, followed by a faint whisper, like a voice murmuring words too soft to catch, drifting from the direction of the staircase. Ellie's heart quickened. The staircase led to the second floor, a warren of unused bedrooms and a locked attic her dad warned her never to enter, its key kept in a drawer she'd never dared open. "Probably the wind," Tyler said, but his flashlight shook, the beam jittering across the floorboards. Nate's eyes were wide, his notebook forgotten, his pocket knife now in hand, its blade glinting faintly. Hannah stood, her phone clutched like a lifeline, her track-trained legs tensed as if ready to bolt. The whisper came again, clearer. A low hiss of syllables, Sarah, Vance, like a chant, seeping from the walls themselves, as if the house was speaking. Ellie's stomach twisted, her camera heavy in her hands as she snapped a photo of the hallway. The flash harsh against the darkness, revealing nothing but peeling wallpaper and a crooked picture frame. "We should check it," Tyler said, his bravado thin, his guitar forgotten on the couch. Ellie shook her head, her mind racing to the Reddit story. Teens hearing voices in a house, dismissing them as pranks, only to find evidence of someone hiding inside. "No way," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the wind outside, which seemed to carry the whisper now, echoing through the cornfields. Nate dialed his dad's number, whispering, "We're at Ellie's, for 72, County Road. Heard something upstairs. It's weird." The call dropped, the signal spotty in the rural sprawl, but he texted Claire, "Noises in the house. Sounds like voices." Scared, the whisper grew louder, more distinct, coming from a staircase now. A soft chant that seemed to pulse with the house's creaks. They crept toward the hallway, their socks silent on the cold floor. The flashlight's beam trembling as Tyler led the way. The staircase loomed, its wooden steps warped, leading into darkness. A faint scratching joined the whisper, like nails dragging along the inside of the walls, slow and deliberate, as if something was moving parallel to them. Ellie's heart pounded, her camera shaking as she snapped another photo, the flash catching a glint in the stairwell, a metal object, small and sharp, like a nail or a blade, lying on a step. Hannah gasped, her phone slipping from her hand, its screen glowing faintly on the floor. "What is that?" she whispered, her voice trembling, her eyes fixed on the object. They froze, the scratching intensifying, now coming from multiple directions, above, behind the walls, under the floorboards. The whisper turned into a voice, low and male, chanting words they couldn't understand, its tone cold, almost mocking. "Ellie," it said, clear and sharp, cutting through the air like a knife. Her name. She hadn't spoken it aloud, not tonight, not to anyone but her friends. The Reddit story's warning echoed, voices knowing names they shouldn't, luring kids into traps. Tyler swung his flashlight, the beam catching nothing but shadows, but the air felt heavier, as if the house was closing in, its walls alive with the chant. "Let's lock ourselves in the kitchen," Nate said, his pocket knife raised, his sketchbook abandoned on the couch. They backed away from the staircase, the floorboards creaking under their weight, the whisper following, now joined by a second voice, softer, almost childlike, chanting in harmony. Ellie's phone buzzed, no signal, but Claire's reply called police. "Stay safe," the text had sent, a faint lifeline in the dark. They reached the kitchen, barricading the door with a heavy table, its legs scraping the linoleum, the room's fluorescent light harsh against the night's gloom. The scratching grew louder, now at the kitchen door, slow and deliberate, like someone testing the wood. A knock came, soft at first, then harder, rattling the door in its frame. "Ellie," the voice said again, closer, as if pressed against the door, its tone calm but laced with menace. Hannah sobbed quietly, her phone clutched tight, while Tyler aimed his flashlight at the door, its beam shaking. Nate's knife was steady, but his face was pale, his eyes darting to the windows, where the cornfield swayed like a living thing. The Reddit story's terror replayed. Teens trapped, voices calling their names, signs of someone who'd been inside all along. Ellie snapped another photo, flash illuminating the door, catching a shadow moving behind it, tall and thin, its outline blurred but human. The knocking stopped, replaced by footsteps, heavy and deliberate, pacing the hallway outside. The whisper resumed, now a chorus, multiple voices overlapping. Sarah, Van S, Ellie, Nate. Names and nonsense blending into a chant that seemed to vibrate through the walls, the floor, the air itself. Ellie's camera shook, her photos blurry, but one showed a faint shape in the hallway, a figure with no face, just darkness where eyes should be. Tyler's flashlight flickered, its battery draining, the room plunging into near darkness, the fluorescent bulb buzzing faintly above. Hannah dialed 911 again, whispering, "We're at 472, County Road. Someone's in the house, calling our names. The operator's voice crackled. Police are 15 minutes out. Stay hidden, don't open the door. The footsteps circled, now joined by a scraping, like metal on wood, slow and rhythmic, as if carving something into the walls. Ellie's mind raced. Had someone been in the house before they arrived, hiding in the attic, watching them set up their sleeping bags? The farmhouse was isolated, miles from neighbors, its windows easy to pry open. The chant grew louder, the voices clearer, now naming all of them. Ellie, Tyler, Hannah, Nate, as if reading a list. Nate's knife shook, his sketchbook's pages crumpled underfoot, his drawings of the fireplace, now a distant memory. Hannah's phone buzzed again, no signal, but another text from Claire. Police are coming. Hide somewhere safe. They moved to the pantry, a cramped space smelling of canned goods and dust, barricading the door with a shelf, its jars rattling as they pushed it. The footsteps followed, stopping outside, the scratching now at the pantry door, deliberate, like a message being carved. Tyler, the voice said, low and guttural, followed by the childlike voice whispering, Hannah. Their names, spoken with a strange intimacy, sent chills down Ellie's spine. She clutched her camera, its weight grounding her, but her hands trembled as she snapped another photo through a crack in the door, the flash catching a glint, eyes, human but wrong, staring back from the kitchen. The air grew colder, the house's groans louder, as if protesting the intrusion. The chant turned into a hum, low and resonant, vibrating through the floor, the walls, their bones. Ellie's mind churned, stories of drifters hiding in rural homes, watching families for days, or worse, something tied to the farmhouse's history, its attic locked for a reason. The scratching paused, then resumed, now joined by a tapping, like fingers on glass, coming from the kitchen window. Tyler's flashlight died, leaving them in the pantry's dim glow, the fluorescent bulb outside flickering, casting jagged shadows through the crack. Hours dragged, the hum relentless, the footsteps pacing, circling, never tiring. Nate whispered, "They're waiting us out," his knife still raised, his voice barely audible over Hannah's quiet sobs. Ellie's camera battery was low, her photos useless, each one showing only shadows, blurs, and those glinting eyes. The Reddit stories end haunted her, teens escaping, but finding signs someone had lived in their walls, watching, waiting. A faint shout broke through. Cedar Falls police. Followed by the crunch of gravel outside, flashlights sweeping the windows like beacons. The footsteps stopped, the voices falling silent, the hum fading into the wind. Ellie and her friend stayed hidden, trembling, until an officer's voice called, "Ellie, it's safe." They pushed the shelf aside, stumbling out, their faces streaked with tears and dust, the kitchen empty but for a knife on the table, its blade etched with strange symbols, not theirs. Police searched the house, finding footprints in the attic dust, leading to a loose board on the wall, a crawl space big enough for a person. A tattered blanket lay inside, still warm, and a notebook with sketches of the farmhouse, their names written in a shaky hand. Ellie, Tyler, Hannah, Nate. The police found no one, but the footprints matched boots from an unsolved prowler case, the symbols linked to other break-ins, their meaning unknown. Ellie and her friends stayed at Hannah's house that night, the farmhouse's warmth tainted, its walls alive with whispers they couldn't unhear. Ellie's camera held only blurry images, but the eyes in the kitchen haunted her, the chant echoing in her dreams, her name in the dark a wound that lingered in every quiet moment. The split-level house in suburban Columbus, Ohio, was a relic of the 1970s, its wood-paneled walls and shag carpet giving it a dated charm that felt both cozy and claustrophobic. Maya, a 15-year-old with a love for true crime podcasts, had invited her friends Liam, Sophie, and Rachel for a sleepover, a celebration of surviving their first month of high school. The living room was a chaos of sleeping bags, popcorn bowls, and board games. Maya's earbuds tangled on a coffee table, still playing snippets of a murder mystery episode. Liam, a skateboarder with a quick laugh, had brought a portable speaker, blasting pop-punk tunes, while Sophie, A budding writer clutched a journal, scribbling story ideas between rounds of Uno. Rachel, the group's artist, had a sketchpad open, her pencils sketching the house's retro decor, her quiet demeanor hiding a sharp eye for detail. Maya's parents were at a work conference, leaving the house to the teens, who relished the freedom but felt the weight of its empty rooms. The basement especially, a dark, unfinished space with concrete walls and a single flickering bulb, avoided even by Maya's dad. They joked about sleepover horror stories, like footsteps heard in empty houses or shadows seen where none should be. Tales from Reddit threads that thrilled them in the daylight, but lingered now as the night deepened. It was just past midnight, the October air cool outside, the windows rattling softly in their frames as a breeze swept through the neighborhood. The group had dimmed the lights, sprawled on the living room floor, telling ghost stories under the glow of fairy lights strung along the ceiling. Liam was mid-story, describing a haunted basement from a podcast, when a low thud echoed from below, sharp and heavy, like a box falling onto concrete. The music paused, the speaker's battery dying, and the silence felt thick, oppressive, as if the house was listening. "Probably pipes," Maya said, her voice unsteady, though she knew the basement was empty, used only for storage, old furniture, holiday decorations, and a locked utility closet her parents never opened. She'd listened to a true crime episode about a sleepover where teens heard noises downstairs, later finding signs of someone hiding in the house, and the memory sent a chill down her spine. Another thud came, followed by a faint scrape, like something dragging across the concrete floor. Rachel's pencil stopped, her sketch of the fireplace half finished, her eyes wide. "That's not pipes," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the wind outside. Liam grabbed his phone, its flashlight app casting a shaky beam toward the basement door, a plain wooden slab at the end of the hallway, its paint chipped and peeling. Sophie's journal lay forgotten, her pen rolling under the couch as she texted her older brother, Ethan. "Heard a noise in the basement. House is creepy tonight." The signal was weak, the text stuck in limbo, but she clutched her phone like a lifeline. The scrape came again, slower, more deliberate, like someone moving something heavy, testing the floor. Maya's heart raced. She'd never liked the basement, its damp air and flickering light, giving her nightmares as a kid. The Reddit story echoed in her mind. Teens hearing sounds below, dismissing them as animals, only to find footprints in the dust. "We should check it," Liam said, his skateboarder bravado faltering, his phone's beam trembling. Maya shook her head, her earbuds dangling from her pocket, useless now. "No way," she whispered, her voice tight, as another sound joined, a low hum, like a voice murmuring words too soft to catch, rising from the basement stairs. They crept toward the hallway, their socks silent on the carpet, the fairy lights casting jagged shadows that seemed to move on their own. The basement door loomed, its knob cold to the touch, the hum clearer now, rhythmic chant, syllables like Van, Sarah, yes. That felt wrong, almost ritualistic. Rachel's sketchpad was clutched to her chest, her pencils scattered, while Sophie dialed 911, whispering, "We're at 319 Maple Drive. There's something in our basement, making noises." The operator's voice crackled. "Stay upstairs. Police are 15 minutes out." The hum grew louder, the words still indistinct, but heavy with intent, as if the house itself was speaking. A knock came from the basement door, soft but deliberate, like a guest asking to be let in. Maya's breath caught, her heart pounding so loud she was sure it would give them away. Liam's flashlight caught a glint through the door's crack. A metal object, small and sharp, like a tool or blade, lying on the top step. "What the hell is that?" he whispered, his voice shaking, his usual grin gone. The Reddit story's warning replayed, noises turning into proof of an intruder, someone who'd been there all along. Sophie's phone buzzed, no signal, but Ethan's reply called cops. "Lock yourselves in," the text had sent, a faint hope in the dark. The knock came again, harder, the door rattling in its frame, the hum turning into a voice, low, male, chanting clearly now, Maya. Her name, spoken with a chilling calm, sent her stomach lurching. She hadn't said it aloud tonight, not even to her friends. They backed away, stumbling into the living room, barricading the door with the couch, its springs creaking under the weight. The chant grew, joined by a second voice, softer, almost feminine, whispering Liam, then Sophie. Their names, clear and deliberate, echoed through the house, as if the walls themselves knew them. Rachel's sketchpad fell, her hands trembling, her eyes fixed on the door, where a shadow moved, tall, thin, its outline blurred but unmistakably human. Maya's mind raced to the podcast, a family finding a hidden room in their basement, signs of someone living there, watching them for weeks. Had someone slipped in before her parents left? Hiding in a utility closet? The house was in a quiet suburb, but the back door was old, its lock flimsy. The footsteps started, heavy and slow, climbing the basement stairs, each thud shaking the floor. Liam's phone died, the flashlight app draining its battery, leaving them in the fairy light's dim glow, the room's shadows twisting like living things. Sophie whispered to the operator, the call reconnecting faintly. They're saying our names. Someone's trying to get in. The operator's voice was urgent. Find a room with a lock. Police are 10 minutes out. They ran to Maya's bedroom, a small space with a single window overlooking the backyard, its curtains drawn tight. They locked the door, pushing her dresser against it, its drawers rattling, her true crime books spilling onto the floor. The footsteps followed, pacing the hallway, the chant louder now. Chorus of voices, male, female, some too soft to place, naming them all. Maya, Liam, Sophie, Rachel. Rachel's sketchpad was clutched like a shield, her hands shaking as she sketched the shadow's outline, as if drawing it could make it less real. The knocking moved to the bedroom door, slow and rhythmic, wood creaking under the pressure, the voices chanting faster, their tone hungry, expectant. The air grew colder, the house's groans louder, as if protesting the intrusion. A scraping joined the knocks, like nails carving into the door, deliberate, forming patterns they couldn't see. Maya's earbuds dangled uselessly, her phone's battery low, but she snapped a photo of the door through the dresser's gap, the flash catching a glint. Eyes, dark and unblinking, staring through the crack. Liam grabbed a baseball bat from under Maya's bed, his hand steady but his face pale, his skateboarder confidence gone. Sophie's phone buzzed again, no signal, but another text from Ethan. Police are close. Stay put. The scraping grew louder, the door trembling, a faint crack forming in the wood. The chant turned into a hum, low and resonant, vibrating through the floor of the walls, their bones. Maya pictured the basement, its concrete walls hiding secrets, maybe a squatter, a drifter who'd found the house empty, or something tied to the neighborhood's history. Old stories of missing kids never explained. The Reddit thread haunted her, teens finding signs of someone living in their home, watching from the shadows. A tapping started at the window, soft but deliberate, like fingers on glass, the curtains swaying slightly. Rachel's pencil snapped, her sketch of the shadow half finished, its eyes too real. Time stretched, the hum relentless, the footsteps circling the hallway, never tiring. Liam whispered, "They're playing with us." His bat raised, his voice barely audible over Sophie's quiet sobs. Maya's photos showed only blurs, but one caught a shape, tall, cloaked, standing outside the window, its face obscured, but its eyes glinting like coins. The knocking stopped, then resumed, now at the window, the glass creaking under pressure. Rachel's voice broke. "They're everywhere." The house felt like a trap, its walls closing in, fairy lights flickering, casting shadows that seemed to move on their own. A siren wailed outside, police lights flashing through the curtains, their red and blue beams cutting the dark. The footsteps fled, scattering down the hallway, the hum fading into silence. Maya and her friend stayed barricaded, trembling, until an officer's voice called, "Columbus PD, it's safe." They pushed the dresser aside, stumbling out, their faces streaked with tears and sweat, the bedroom door scratched with crude symbols, circles, lines, eyes, that weren't there before. Police searched the basement, finding a sleeping bag, not Maya's, tucked behind the utility closet, still warm, and a knife with matching symbols, its blade stained with something dark. Footprints led from the basement to the backyard, bare and too large, circling the house before vanishing into the grass. The sleeping bag matched one from an unsolved break-in case, the symbols linked to other incidents, their meaning a mystery. Maya's photos showed only shadows, but the glinting eyes haunted her, burned into her memory. The police found no one, but the basement's air felt wrong, heavy with the echo of the chant. Maya and her friends crashed at Sophie's house that night, the split levels retro charm tainted, its walls alive with voices they couldn't unhear. Maya's earbuds stayed silent, her true crime obsession now a warning, the shadow's eyes a scar that lingered in every quiet moment. The ranch-style house in suburban Boise, Idaho, sat at the edge of a quiet cul-de-sac, its brick facade and manicured lawn blending into a neighborhood of identical homes, each with glowing porch lights that did little to pierce the October night. Zoe, a 16-year-old with a passion for horror novels, had planned a sleepover to celebrate the end of midterms, inviting her friends Caleb, Mia, and Ethan, her closest companions since middle school. The living room was a sprawl of sleeping bags, pizza boxes, and soda cans. Zoe's battered copy of Dracula open on the coffee table, its pages dog-eared from late-night reading. Caleb, a soccer player with a quick grin, had brought a deck of cards, his competitive streak fueling endless rounds of Go Fish. Mia, budding filmmaker, fiddled with her camcorder, recording snippets of their laughter for a short film project, while Ethan, the group's tech geek, tinkered with the portable speaker, syncing it to a playlist of spooky soundtracks. Zoe's parents were at a weekend retreat, leaving the house to the teens, who filled it with chatter and music, the warmth of their friendship a shield against the chill outside. They'd swapped stories about creepy sleepovers, tales of strange noises or faces at windows, pulled from Reddit threads and local rumors, but the cul-de-sac felt safe, its familiarity a comfort as the night deepened. By 1 a.m., the playlist had faded to soft piano notes, the living room lit only by the flickering glow of a horror movie paused on the TV, its frozen frame showing a shadowy figure in a fog. The group was sprawled on their sleeping bags, telling ghost stories, when a soft tap came from the living room window, sharp and deliberate, like a finger striking glass. The sound cut through their laughter, leaving a heavy silence, the air suddenly thick with unease. "It's just a branch," Zoe said, her voice wavering, though she knew the nearest tree was across the yard, too far to touch the window. She'd read a Reddit post about a sleepover where teens heard taps at a window, only to see a face staring back, its eyes empty and unblinking. Caleb chuckled, but his grin was forced, his cards scattered on the floor. Mia's camcorder was still recording, its red light blinking, capturing their tense faces. Ethan grabbed his phone, its flashlight app casting a shaky beam toward the window, where the curtains hung still, the night beyond them black as ink. Another tap came, sharper, followed by a faint scrape, like nails dragging across the glass, slow and deliberate. Zoe's heart raced, her copy of Dracula forgotten, its pages fluttering in the draft from a vent. "That's not a branch," Mia whispered, her camcorder shaking as she aimed it at the window, zooming in on the curtains. Ethan texted his older sister, Lily. Heard something at the window. Probably nothing, but creepy. The signal was spotty, the text stuck in limbo, but he clutched his phone like a talisman. The group crept toward the window, their socks silent on the carpet, Zoe's hand trembling as she reached for the curtain. They pulled it back just an inch and froze. A face stared back, pale and gaunt, its eyes wide and unblinking, pressed so close the glass fogged with its breath. They screamed, stumbling back, the curtain falling shut, Zoe's book tumbling to the floor. Caleb grabbed a baseball bat from the corner, his soccer reflexes kicking in, while Mia's camcorder fell, its lens still pointed at the window, recording darkness. The face was gone when they looked again, the glass clear, but the yard shadows seemed to shift, curling like smoke in the moonlight. Zoe's pulse hammered, her mind racing to the Reddit story, teens seeing a face at a sleepover. later finding footprints outside. Proof someone had been watching. "Lock everything," she said, her voice barely audible. As they checked the windows and doors, the house's silence now a threat. Its familiar corners turned sinister. Ethan dialed 911, whispering, "We're at 28, Aspen Court. Someone's outside. We saw a face at the window." The operator's voice was calm. "Stay inside. Lock the doors. Police are 12 minutes out." The tap came again. Now at the back door, a slow, rhythmic knock, like someone testing their resolve. Mia's camcorder was back in her hands, recording the door, its footage shaky but relentless, capturing the faint outline of a shadow moving outside. Caleb gripped his bat, his knuckles white, while Zoe clutched her phone, its battery low, texting Lily, face at the window, calling cops. Scared, the knock grew louder, the door rattling, a low voice whispering, "Zoe." Clear and cold, cutting through the night. Her name. She hadn't spoken it outside. Not tonight. Not to anyone but her friends. The Reddit story's terror replayed, voices knowing names they shouldn't, luring teens into danger. They barricaded the back door with a bookshelf, its contents, books, a lamp, Zoe's old trophies, spilling across the floor. The knocking stopped, replaced by footsteps, heavy and deliberate, circling the house, crunching on the gravel path outside. Mia's camcorder caught a glimpse through the window, a tall figure, cloaked in dark clothing, its face obscured but its eyes glinting, catching the moonlight like polished stones. Ethan's speaker crackled, its battery dying, the spooky soundtrack cutting to silence, leaving only the sound of their breaths and the footsteps outside. The footsteps paused, then resumed, now joined by a second set, lighter, faster, as if another figure had joined the first. Zoe's mind churned. Had someone been watching the house, waiting for her parents to leave? The neighborhood was quiet, but the back gate was flimsy, easy to climb. The voice came again, now at the side window, whispering, "Caleb." Then Mia. Each name spoken with chilling precision, as if reading from a list. Rachel's sketchpad lay open, her pencils scattered, her half-finished drawing of the living room now a mockery of their safety. The group huddled in the center of the room, Caleb's bat raised, Ethan's phone trembling in his hand, its flashlight app flickering. Sophie dialed 911 again, her voice shaking. "They're saying our names. 2 people outside now, circling the house." The operator's voice crackled. "Police are 8 minutes out. Find a room with a lock." They ran to Zoe's parents' bedroom, a small space with a heavy door and a window overlooking the backyard, its blinds drawn tight. They locked the door, pushing a dresser against it, its drawers rattling, Zoe's horror novels spilling onto the carpet. The footsteps followed, pacing the hallway, the voices chanting now, Zoe, Caleb, Mia, Ethan, a chorus that seemed to rise from the walls, the floor, the air itself. Mia's camcorder was still recording, its battery low, capturing the door's faint tremble as the knocks resumed, slow and deliberate, the wood creaking under pressure. The air grew colder, the house's hum of electricity faltering, the fairy lights flickering, casting jagged shadows that seemed to move on their own. A scraping started, like nails carving into the door, rhythmic and purposeful, as if marking the wood with symbols. Zoe's phone buzzed, no signal, but Lily's reply, "Police are coming. Hide in the closet." The text had sent, a faint lifeline. Ethan's flashlight died, leaving them in the dim glow of the blind slats, moonlight slicing through like blades. The chant grew louder, the voices clearer, now joined by a third, softer, almost childlike, whispering, "Rachel." Her name sent her sobbing, her sketchpad clutched like a shield, her hands shaking as she drew the shadow's outline, its eyes too real, too human. The knocking moved to the bedroom window, the glass creaking, the blind swaying as if pushed by a hand. Zoe snapped a photo with her phone, the flash catching a glint, eyes dark and unblinking, staring through the blinds, inches from the glass. Caleb swung his bat at the air, his voice breaking. "Get away!" The Reddit story haunted Zoe, teens escaping a prowler, but finding signs he'd been watching for days, his presence hidden in plain sight. The house felt like a cage, its walls closing in, the footsteps circling tighter, the chant relentless, vibrating through their bones. Mia's camcorder battery died, its final frame a blur of the window, a face pressed against it. Gone in an instant. Time dragged, the cold seeping into their skin, the knocks and footsteps never tiring. Ethan whispered, "They're waiting us out." His phone useless, its screen dark. Rachel's pencil scratched frantically, her sketch of the face half finished, its eyes hollow, staring. A siren wailed outside, police lights flashing through the blinds, their red and blue beams cutting the dark like knives. The footsteps fled, scattering across the gravel, the chant fading into the wind's howl. Zoe and her friend stayed barricaded, trembling, until an officer's voice called, "Boise PD, it's safe." They pushed the dresser aside, stumbling out, their faces streaked with tears and sweat. The bedroom door scratched with crude symbols, circles, lines, a single eye, that weren't there before. Police searched the yard, finding footprints circling the house. 2 sets, one heavy, one light, both bare, leading to the back gate and vanishing. A knife was stuck in the back door, its blade etched with matching symbols, its handle worn, as if used often. The footprints matched a prowler case from a nearby town, unsolved. The symbols linked to other break-ins, their meaning a mystery. Zoe's photos showed only blurs, but the glinting eyes lingered in her memory, burned into her nightmares. The police found a tattered backpack in the backyard, not theirs, filled with photos of the house, taken from the cul-de-sac over weeks, some showing Zoe and her friends arriving home from school. The backpack matched one reported stolen in a missing person case, its owner never found. Zoe and her friends crashed at Ethan's house that night, the ranch-style's warmth tainted, its windows no longer safe. Zoe's copy of Dracula stayed closed, her horror novels now a warning, the face at the window a scar that echoed in every quiet moment, its eyes watching from the dark. The lakefront cabin in northern Maine sat on the edge of a glassy lake, its cedar walls and sagging porch surrounded by dense pines that whispered in the autumn wind, their shadows stretching long across the water at dusk. Ava, a 17-year-old with a passion for painting, had organized a sleepover to escape the chaos of her senior year in Bangor, inviting her friends Owen, Lila, and a new kid, Dylan, who joined their art class that fall. The cabin belonged to Ava's aunt, who was away for the weekend, leaving the teens to fill its cozy rooms with laughter and warmth. Ava's easel stood in the living room, her canvas half covered with a lake scene, its blues smudged from rushed brushstrokes. Owen, a drummer with a restless energy, had brought a portable speaker, blasting indie rock, while Lila, a poet with a quiet intensity, clutched her journal, its pages filled with verses about the wilderness. Dylan, charming but reserved, carried a backpack stuffed with snacks and a deck of tarot cards, his easy smile winning them over despite his vague backstory. The living room was a mess of sleeping bags, board games, and empty soda cans, the fireplace crackling, its light dancing on the knotty pine walls. They'd swapped stories about creepy sleepovers, tales of uninvited guests or strange noises, pulled from Reddit posts and local legends, but the cabin felt safe, its isolation a thrill until the sun sank below the pines, leaving the lake black and still. By 11 p.m., the music had softened, the fire casting flickering shadows that seemed to linger too long on the walls. The group was playing tarot with Dylan's deck, his cryptic readings, cards of towers and shadowed figures, drawing nervous laughs. A sharp creak came from the porch, like a footstep on loose boards, cutting through their chatter. The sound was heavy, deliberate, not the wind or a raccoon. "It's just the cabin settling," Ava said, her voice unsteady, though she knew her aunt kept the porch clear, no furniture or branches to creak. She'd read a Reddit thread about a sleepover where a stranger joined the group, unnoticed until it was too late, their presence marked by odd behavior and missing items. Owen turned down the speaker, his drumsticks idle on the table, while Lila's pen froze over her journal, her eyes darting to the windows. Dylan's smile faltered, his hands clutching his backpack, as if guarding something inside. Another creak came, followed by a soft knock at the front door, slow and rhythmic, like a guest expecting to be welcomed. Ava's heart raced. The cabin was miles from the nearest neighbor, the dirt road empty since her aunt left. "Who's out here at this hour?" Lila whispered, her journal falling shut, her poems forgotten. Owen grabbed a flashlight, its beam trembling as he aimed it at the door, where the knob rattled slightly, as if tested. Dylan stayed quiet, his eyes fixed on the floor, his backpack pulled closer. Ava's mind flashed to the Reddit story. Teens at a sleepover letting in a stranger, thinking he was a friend, only to find signs he'd been watching them for days. She texted her aunt, her fingers shaking. Heard knocks at the cabin. No one should be here. The signal was weak, the text stuck, but she clutched her phone like a shield. The knock came again, harder, the door creaking in its frame, followed by a low voice, muffled but human, murmuring words they couldn't catch. Syllables like Van, Sarah, yes, like a chant from the dark. Owen's flashlight swept the windows, catching nothing but the pines' swaying shadows, their needles scraping the glass in the wind. "We should check it," he said, his drummer's bravado thin, his drumsticks forgotten. Ava shook her head, her paintbrush trembling, smudging her canvas. "No way," she whispered as Lila dialed 911, her voice low. "We're at Pine Lake Cabin, off Route 17. Someone's knocking, we're alone." The operator's voice crackled. "Stay inside, lock everything. Sheriff's 20 minutes out." The knocking stopped, replaced by footsteps, heavy and deliberate, circling the cabin, crunching on the gravel path outside. Dylan's face was pale, his hands gripping his backpack, his tarot cards scattered on the floor, the tower card face up, its image ominous in the firelight. The voice came again, clearer, from the back porch. Ava. Her name, spoken with chilling calm, sent her heart into her throat. She hadn't told Dylan her name, not directly. Only her friends knew it tonight. The Reddit story's terror echoed, strangers knowing names they shouldn't, blending into groups to hide their intent. Lila's journal lay abandoned, her pen rolling under the couch, as she whispered, "He's not one of us." Footsteps paced the porch, now joined by a second set, lighter, faster, as if another figure had arrived, their rhythm synchronized, like hunters circling prey. Ava's paintbrush fell, splattering blue on the floor, her easel wobbling as she backed away from the windows. Owen's flashlight flickered, its battery draining, the fire's glow casting jagged shadows that seemed to move on their own. The voice whispered again, now at the side window, naming them all. Owen, Lila, Dylan. The names hung in the air, the chant growing louder, a chorus of voices, male, female, some too soft to place, seeping from the pines, the lake, the cabin's walls. Dylan's eyes widened, his backpack clutched tight, his voice low. "I didn't sign up for this." They barricaded the front door with a heavy table, its legs scraping the floor, board games spilling in their haste. The footsteps tightened their circle, the knocks moving to the back door, the wood groaning under pressure. Ava's phone buzzed, no signal, but her aunt's reply called sheriff. "Hide," the text had sent, a faint hope. Lila's 911 call dropped, the signal gone, but she whispered to the operator's voicemail. "They're saying our names. 2 people outside now." The chant grew, rhythmic and relentless, vibrating through the cabin, the air heavy with the scent of pine and fear. Owen grabbed a fireplace poker, his drummer's rhythm replaced by a trembling grip, while Lila's journal pages crumpled underfoot, her poems lost to panic. The group ran to the upstairs loft, a small space with slanted ceiling and a single window overlooking the lake, its glass fogged with cold. They locked the door, pushing a dresser against it, its drawers rattling, Ava's old sketchbooks spilling onto the floor. The footsteps followed, climbing the stairs, slow and deliberate, the chant louder now, naming them in turn. Ava, Owen, Lila, Dylan. Dylan's backpack was still clutched tight, his eyes darting, as if he knew something he wasn't saying. The knocking moved to the loft door, the wood creaking, the scraping joining it, like nails carving patterns into the surface. Ava's phone battery was low, but but she snapped a photo through the door's crack, the flash catching a glint, eyes dark and unblinking, staring from the stairwell inches away. The air grew colder, the cabin's groans louder, as if protesting the intrusion. The chant turned into a hum, low and resonant, vibrating through the floor, the walls, their bones. Ava's mind raced. Had Dylan brought someone? His backpack hiding more than snacks? The cabin was isolated, its locks old, easy to pick. The Reddit story haunted her. A sleepover where a new kid turned out to be a lure, leading strangers to the house. The scraping grew louder, the door trembling, a faint crack forming in the wood. Owen's poker was raised, his hand steady but his face pale, while Lila's voice broke. They know too much. A tapping started at the window, soft but deliberate, the glass creaking as the blind swayed. Ava's photo showed only a blur, but the eyes lingered, burned into her memory. The hum intensified, the footsteps circling the loft, never tiring, as if savoring their fear. Dylan whispered, "I didn't know," his voice shaking, his backpack unzipped, revealing a knife, not his, its blade etched with crude symbols, like those in the Reddit stories about intruders leaving marks. Lila screamed, backing away, her journal forgotten, as the knocking grew frantic, the door splintering slightly, the voices chanting faster, hungrier. Time dragged, the cold seeping into their skin, the hum relentless, the footsteps pacing the hallway below, then climbing again. Ava pictured the lake outside, its glassy surface hiding secrets, maybe drifters hiding in the pines, watching the cabin for days. The tarot cards on the floor below, Tower Card's image, seemed a warning now. A siren wailed in the distance, sheriff's lights flashing across the lake, their beams slicing the dark. The footsteps fled, scattering into the pines, the hum fading into the wind's whisper. Ava and speaks to the void. We're in a cabin off Route 17, Pine Lake. Someone's outside calling our names. The operator's voice crackled. "Sheriff's here. Stay put." They stayed barricaded, trembling, until a deputy's voice called. "Sheriff's Department. It's safe." They pushed the dresser aside, stumbling downstairs, their faces streaked with tears and sweat, the loft door scratched with symbols, circles, eyes, lines that weren't there before. Deputies searched the cabin, finding footprints circling the porch, 2 sets, one heavy, one light, leading into the pines and vanishing. Dylan's backpack held the knife, a map of the area and photos of the cabin, taken from the woods, some showing Ava painting on the porch days earlier. The knife matched one from an unsolved prowler case, the symbols linked to other break-ins, their meaning unknown. Dylan swore he didn't know, but his story unraveled. He'd met someone online, a friend who suggested the sleepover, giving him the backpack. The deputies found no one in the pines, but the footprints matched boots from a missing hiker case, the photos suggesting weeks of surveillance. Ava and her friends crashed at Lila's house in Bangor, the cabin's warmth tainted, its lakefront view now a threat. Ava's easel stayed untouched, her paintings unfinished, the guest who wasn't invited a shadow that lingered in every quiet moment, the chant echoing in her dreams. The 2-story colonial house in suburban Raleigh, North Carolina, stood on a quiet street lined with oak trees, their branches casting long shadows across the lawn as the October sun set. Emma, a 16-year-old with a love for journaling, had planned a sleepover to celebrate her birthday, inviting her friends Noah, Grace, and Lily, her tight-knit group from the school newspaper. The house, her family's home since she was a kid, was a cozy maze of hardwood floors, creaky stairs, and narrow hallways, its walls adorned with family photos and Emma's handwritten stories, pinned to a corkboard. Her journal, a leather-bound book filled with her thoughts and dreams, lay open on the living room coffee table, its pages fluttering in the breeze from an open window. Noah, a photographer with a knack for capturing candid moments, had his camera slung around his neck, snapping shots of the group's laughter. Grace, a soccer player with boundless energy, sprawled on a sleeping bag, tossing a stress ball, while Lily, a bookworm with a quiet intensity, clutched a novel, her eyes darting to the shadows. Emma's parents were at a friend's lake house for the weekend, leaving the teens to fill the house with music, snacks, and chatter. They'd swapped creepy sleepover stories, tales of strange noises in old houses, pulled from Reddit threads and local gossip. But the suburban street felt safe, its normalcy a shield until the night deepened. By midnight, the living room was lit by the soft glow of string lights. The group sprawled on sleeping bags, playing truth or dare, the air filled with laughter and the scent of popcorn. Noah was daring Grace to tell a ghost story when a sharp thud echoed from above, heavy and deliberate, like a box falling in the attic. The laughter died, the silence thick, the house's usual creaks suddenly menacing. "It's just the house settling," Emma said, her voice unsteady, though she knew the attic was mostly empty. Old furniture, holiday decorations, and a locked trunk her dad said was just family heirlooms. She'd read a Reddit post about a sleepover where teens heard noises overhead, later finding signs of someone hiding in the attic, and the memory sent a chill through her. Grace caught her stress ball, her grin fading, while Noah's camera hung still, his hands trembling slightly. Another thud came, followed by a faint scraping, like something dragging across the attic floor. Slow and purposeful, Lily's novel fell shut, her eyes wide, her voice barely a whisper. "That's not normal." Noah grabbed his camera, its flash ready, while Emma texted her older brother Jake, who was at college. Heard a noise in the attic. "House is creepy tonight." The signal was weak, the text stuck, but she clutched her phone like a lifeline. The group crept toward the staircase, their socks silent on the hardwood, the string lights casting flickering shadows that seemed to twist unnaturally. The attic door was at the end of the upstairs hallway, a plain wooden slab with a rusty lock, its key hidden in her parents' room. A low hum started, like a voice murmuring words too soft to catch, drifting from above, its rhythm eerie, almost ritualistic. Emma's heart raced, her journal forgotten on the coffee table, its pages open to a story about a haunted house. The hum grew clearer, syllables like Sarah, Van, yes, forming a chant that seemed to seep from the walls, the ceiling, the air itself. "We should check it," Noah said, his photographer's curiosity warring with fear, his camera raised like a shield. Grace shook her head, her stress ball clutched tight, her soccer confidence gone. "No way," she whispered as Lily dialed 911, her voice trembling. "We're at 142 Oakwood Lane. There's something in our attic, making noises." The operator's voice crackled. "Stay downstairs. Lock the doors. Police are 15 minutes out." A knock came from the attic door, soft but deliberate, like someone tapping from the other side, testing the lock. Emma's breath caught, her heart pounding so loud she feared it would betray them. The chant grew louder, a male voice now, low and guttural, calling Emma. Her name, spoken with chilling precision, sent her stomach lurching. She hadn't said it aloud tonight, not even to her friends. The Reddit story's terror replayed, voices knowing names they shouldn't, luring teens into traps. Noah's camera flashed, illuminating the hallway, catching a glint through the door's crack. A metal object, small and sharp, like a nail or blade, lying on the attic stairs. Grace gasped, her stress ball dropping, rolling under the stairs. The knocking intensified, the door rattling, the hum turning into a chorus, multiple voices now, male and female, chanting their names. Emma, Noah, Grace, Lily. The group backed away, stumbling into the living room, barricading the hallway door with a heavy bookshelf, its contents, books, a lamp, Emma's old journals, spilling across the floor. The footsteps started, heavy and slow, descending the attic stairs, each thud shaking the house. The chant relentless, vibrating through the walls. Emma's phone buzzed, no signal, but Jake's reply called cops. "Hide somewhere safe." The text had sent, a faint hope in the dark. They ran to the guest room, a small space with a locked door and a window overlooking the backyard, its curtains drawn tight. They pushed a dresser against the door, its drawers rattling, Lily's novel tumbling to the floor, its pages crumpled. The footsteps followed, pacing the hallway, the chant louder now, naming them in turn, the voices overlapping in a haunting rhythm. Noah's camera battery was low, but he snapped a photo through the door's gap, the flash catching a shadow, tall, thin, its outline blurred but human, moving just beyond the dresser. Grace's voice broke. They're in the house. The Reddit story haunted Emma, teens finding signs of an intruder hiding in their home, watching from above. The air grew colder. The house's creaks louder, as if protesting the intrusion. A scraping joined the knocks, like nails carving into the door, deliberate and rhythmic, forming patterns they couldn't see. Emma's journal pages, left downstairs, felt like a betrayal, her private thoughts exposed to whatever was out there. The chant turned into a hum, low and resonant, vibrating through the floor. Their bones. Noah whispered, "They're waiting us out." His camera shaking, his photos blurry, but one showing eyes, dark, unblinking, staring through the crack. Lily dialed 911 again, whispering. They're saying our names. They're at the door. The operator's voice was urgent. Police are 10 minutes out. Find a closet. They moved to the guest room closet, a cramped space smelling of mothballs and old coats, barricading the door with a chair, its legs wobbling under the weight. The footsteps circled the room, the knocking now at the window, the glass creaking as the curtains swayed. Grace's stress ball was gone, her hands trembling, while Lily's novel lay abandoned, its pages torn. The hum grew louder, the voices clearer, now chanting all their names in a loop, as if savoring their fear. Emma's phone battery died, her last photo showing a shadow outside the window, its eyes glinting like coins in the moonlight. The Reddit stories end replayed, teens escaping, but finding proof someone had lived in their attic, watching for weeks. The scraping moved to the closet door, slow and deliberate, like a message being carved. Noah's camera died, leaving them in the closet's dim glow, the string lights outside flickering, casting jagged shadows through the crack. The chant intensified, the footsteps never tiring, pacing the room, the hallway, the stairs. Emma pictured the attic, its locked trunk hiding secrets, maybe a squatter, a drifter who'd slipped in before her parents left, or something tied to the house's history. Its previous owners never discussed. A tapping started at the window, the glass groaning, as if pushed by a hand. Grace sobbed quietly, her soccer bravado gone, while Lily whispered, "They know too much." A siren wailed outside, police lights flashing through the curtains, their red and blue beams slicing the dark. The footsteps fled, scattering down the stairs, the hum fading into the wind's rustle. Emma and her friend stayed hidden, trembling, until an officer's voice called, "Raleigh PD, it's safe." They pushed a chair aside, stumbling out, their faces streaked with tears and dust. The guest room door scratched with crude symbols, eyes lined circles that weren't there before. Police searched the attic, finding a sleeping bag, not theirs, tucked behind the trunk, still warm, and a knife with matching symbols, its blade stained with something dark. Footprints led from the attic to the backyard, bare and too large, vanishing into the grass. The sleeping bag matched one from an unsolved break-in case, the symbols linked to other incidents, their meaning a mystery. Emma's photos showed only blurs, but the glinting eyes haunted her, burned into her memory. The police found a tattered notebook in the attic, not hers, filled with sketches of the house and their names. Emma, Noah, Grace, Lily, written in a shaky hand. Emma and her friends crashed at Grace's house that night, the colonial's warmth tainted, its attic a threat that lingered in every shadow. Emma's journal stayed closed, her stories unwritten, the noise in the attic a scar that echoed in every quiet moment, a chant a wound that refused to heal.